Child sexual abuse is a pandemic. It is one of the greatest tragedies and challenges in our communities, in our country, and in our world. Nearly a day goes by that we don't hear about a child being sexually abused. We've almost become desensitized by it. We need to do something about it. We need to break the silence. Today, we are going to be breaking the silence, exposing the truth, and talking about this issue. A silent nation of survivors is ready to speak. You will hear in the next hour from survivors who will be telling their stories. They will be sharing their tragedy and their triumph. They will be talking about, in a very vulnerable way, opening up and exposing what has happened to them in their life. I am Angela Williams, and I am one of 42 million survivors in the U.S. I am using my voice to speak out today. Welcome to Angela's Voice. It is very challenging to talk about child sexual abuse, and I believe it is even more challenging for a male to speak out. So we have a very courageous guest with us today who is going to tell us his story of child sexual abuse. Can you help me welcome Mark Pendleton? Welcome, Mark.
It's good to be here.
So how does it feel sharing your story for the first time?
Well, it's not the first time. It's certainly the first time on television.
On television.
So that's a little frightening, yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about when your abuse started or what memories you have of your abuse.
Okay. The first time I had any kind of knowledge of sexual abuse, I was 34 years old.
Wow.
And so it was obviously a long time. I had a dream, and in the dream I was a toddler in a crib. I was not viewing this from outside of the crib. I was actually the toddler in the crib.
Oh my goodness.
And a male figure moved over me and fondled me. And I immediately woke up, and the sensation going through my body was one of sexual stimulation with no understanding of it and fear. And that's when I knew. I mean, I knew something was wrong. I knew something had been wrong. And but that was the first indication that I had that the abuse was more than just, you know, emotional, verbal, psychological abuse, that it was sexual as well.
Tell us about Mark as a little boy.
You know, what I remember of my childhood, I grew up with a lot of fear. I just did. I grew up with a lot of fear. Was afraid of males to a large degree, not totally, but was afraid of males. And kind of my safe place was, you know, with my sister and, you know, my grandmother and great aunts and stuff like that. So what I really remember is that I was fearful. And I was fearful lots of times to try things, you know, and do things with other boys and stuff like that, and take risks, you know, and stuff. And so I just, that's kind of what I remember of my childhood, really, is just growing up in fear.
And tell us, if you can, how you feel like that's impacted, the child sexual abuse has impacted you as an adult man.
Well, what I've learned, and this has really been, my faith is a large part of my journey, and so this is kind of, for me, God peeling back the layers and layer after layer after layer. What it did to me is the abuse opened up the door for doubt to enter in regarding my identity.
Okay.
And not just my identity, but who is God. Because my identity is shaped and formed in a context with other humans. And so it distorted at some level my gender identity, my sexual identity, and so I kind of lived, you know, kind of in that place of, I look at it as kind of stunted growth and development. You know, and it impacted my entire life in terms of relationships that I had, work that I chose to do, all that kind of stuff. So
when did you actually tell someone, and tell us about that experience? How hard was that?
You know, I'll be honest with you, I think I may have told some friends or something about the dream, but that was not difficult for me to share that. What really was more difficult is years later, you know, that was probably in 2000 when I had the first dream. In 2001, like a lot of folks who are victimized, I had a kind of a personal crisis of sorts, and called a either a breakdown or a paradigm shift is a little more hopeful. And but I had nightmares that started, and flashbacks that started in 2013. And those were the ones, quite frankly, that were harder to tell because they seemed bizarre, you know, just of a type of abuse that I think most people don't even believe in or hear about. So for me to originally tell about the abuse of my childhood, and it was not difficult until the other stuff started.
And how old were you in your flashbacks and your dreams?
Well, you know, in the first dream, it was a toddler. In the first flashback and the nightmares and the body memories, somewhere between age 5 and 6. And so, you know, for me, I don't think I even had good memories that formed of the abuse.
If a survivor's listening, especially a male, how difficult is it for men to speak out about their experiences of sexual abuse?
You know, the abuse itself, it was less hard for me to speak out about than the impact that it had on my life and how it affected my life and my reaction to the abuse, and that was just much more difficult. So for me, you know, I could talk with some family members, I could talk with my pastor and folks that were in my church community and in some recovery groups. And the recovery groups is really where I really started to talk about some of the specifics in a setting where, you know, you just didn't know, you're not talking to your best friend. And so that's when, you know, people would be like, oh yeah, I've actually heard of that. And then you don't think you're so crazy.
And that's the repressed memory.
That's the repressed memory stuff. And then it's like, you know, you realize that, you know, because you get the affirmation like, no, I've heard of that. And you're not going nuts.
Right.
You know,
So tell me, with the repressed memory, would any family members reject that you had been sexually abused? I'm assuming that the abuser was in your family?
Yeah, abuser was in my family, and yes, there are family members who have rejected that.
And how do you relate to them, or how do you handle that?
Well, right now we have kind of a separation of relationships, so we're kind of in that stage. It may be at some point that there's reconciliation or there's an agreement to disagree, but we haven't really reached that point we haven't reached that stage at this point.
What does the word shame mean to you?
It's more shame about who I am. It's about identity. It's not as much about what someone has done to me. It's about just an internalized sense of wrongness or something like that, or badness or something like that. So it's basically a shame of being who you are and who God created you to be.
Now, Mark, do you have children?
I do. I have 3 stepdaughters, and blessed to have them.
And how do you, are you in any way concerned or worried that they at some point may be abused?
You know, we talk to the older daughters just about certain things and help educate them. I'm not as fearful that they're going to be sexually abused because they're older. You know, they're older and they're going to be aware of it. If something happens, you know, they're going to be real aware of it. Maybe, you know, one of our younger child, there may be some concern about that, but we're very, you know, we're very protective and very aware. And
so what would you say has been the greatest help in your healing that you could share with us?
You know, honestly, I asked God for healing, and He led me on a very long healing path that was my own. And I think that He set out before me. And, you know, that was everything from ministry programs to counselors to recovery programs to listening prayer and inner healing. And so it was at every step along the way when I was at a particular stage of recovery and healing, and I prayed and I had some kind of awareness of what I needed, I'd ask. And it would always materialize in some way, shape, or form in a way that I could afford, I had access to, and stuff like that.
So I'm hearing that it was a long journey for you.
It was and it was my own personal healing journey.
So if you are talking to a survivor out there today, what would you say to them?
You know, I would say that there's hope, and to keep persevering. And you're not crazy, no matter what someone wants you to believe, you know, you're not. And to seek it out and keep seeking it out and keep seeking it out, because there's probably not going to be a silver bullet. It's a journey, and you have to persevere, and you need to surround yourself with people who support you in that journey every step along the way. And for me, I have to have God.
Amen. Well, do you feel like the pain, the trauma, the tragedy that you've been through has almost made you more compassionate or made you a better man?
Well, it definitely has made me more compassionate. I cannot, you know, probably maybe earlier in my life, I wasn't as compassionate until I had the personal crisis.
Yeah.
And then, you know, your own suffering does make you aware of other people's suffering, and you can enter in to other people's suffering with them in a way that I just was not able to before.
Well, I really admire you, and I honor your courage to come on today and to break your silence and to share, and know that there's going to be someone blessed by you talking and by you speaking out and by you breaking your silence, because we say that one voice gives another voice the opportunity. So we're just thrilled to have you today, and know that you're starting a support group, and so those that need to contact you can go to our website, and we'll give that information later on in the show.
Great.
So stay with us. We'll be right back.
I told Mommy I got hurt at Uncle George's house. She told me to put a bandage over it.
1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused by their 18th birthday. Pledge to break the silence of child sexual abuse. Go to voicetoday.org and join the Voice movement today.
I was 9 when my stepfather began sexually abusing me. I was alone in darkness and lived in fear and shame. I had no voice. On a path of self-destruction and tired of running from the pain, I finally broke my silence. Speaking out gave me the freedom to heal. I found victory and healing with my voice. Break your silence. Victory begins with your voice.
Join the Voice movement today.
Are you a victim of child sexual abuse? Was your abuser ever prosecuted? Have you ever told anyone? Now is your time to speak. Child sexual abuse is cruel and painful, stealing a childhood. The impact devastating. I'm Angela Williams, and I know I was abused for 14 years. My abuser, like many, never prosecuted. I and a small army of advocates and survivors fought to pass House Bill 17, the Hidden Predator Act. The law has now changed in Georgia to extend the civil statute of limitations, finally giving victims the right to pursue civil justice. No matter how long ago your abuse happened, you can pursue civil action. The retroactive window is now open, but will close in 2017. Protect children from the person who abused you. Today, the courtroom doors are open. Act now to save the next victim. Email justice@voicetoday.org and get your voice today. Welcome back to Angela's Voice. I'm your host, Angela Williams. Our next guest is wonderful, has a smile that lights up a room, and I want us to welcome Linda Michelle Trainer.
Thank you.
So, Linda. Yes, I am. I say that child sexual abuse may have taken your innocence, but it sure didn't take your smile. It is absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Tell us a little bit about the little girl, Linda.
The little girl, Linda, was very inquisitive. She loved making people happy. She loved playing with baby dolls, paper dolls especially.
I love paper dolls.
The little girl, Linda, had an aunt, a great aunt, who on weekends would put out a spread with coffee and cremora and the silver and everything, so I would pretend like I was grown up, but yet I was still that little princess. She had a bed that I would climb up into. It was almost like I felt like a fairy princess.
So when did abuse enter your life?
When I was age 9, we were in the backyard, a cousin of mine and an uncle, playing touch football. And the tackles that my uncle did were feeling kind of strange. I mean, the first one was okay, and then the second and the third. And I began feeling something funny, and then my grandma came to the back door, and she shouted, "Get off of that girl." And I knew something was wrong then. A little while later, Grandma and Granddad went to the grocery store, and my uncle said he wanted to show me something. He took me behind a chair, and that's where the incest started for me.
How did that first time feel?
Confusing, terrified. I didn't feel like a little princess anymore. I felt angry and scared, but confused. All of those just cycling over and over and over again. I felt trapped.
Did you tell anybody?
He told me if I told anyone, they would hate him, they would hate me, and they would start hating each other, and it would be my fault. And I didn't want that. Our family was such a nucleus of love, and I didn't want to be the cause of that hatred, so I couldn't. I felt I couldn't.
So what did you do with that secret, Linda?
I hated myself. I beat up on myself. I cried. I prayed to God. I asked where he was, and I wrote. And I read books, and Zig Ziglar and Robert Schuller and Dale Carnegie. But I was still trying to understand, so I was just going through the motions. I used to pretend that I was interviewing other girls that had gone through what I'd gone through. Had a beautiful desk, and I had a little writing table that slid out, so I would just interview them, and I would tell them, don't worry, one day there will be a ranch where you can go and you can get away from all of this, and you can play, and you can feel free and ride horses, and you won't have to worry about this.
You know, I did the same thing as a little girl. I lined my dolls up, and I had the microphone, and who knew that I would be here today? Well, tell us, Linda, as you grew into an adult, how did the sexual abuse manifest in your life?
Trying to please everybody, trying to be a people pleaser, trying to fit in. I felt ugly, so I wasn't allowed to wear a lot of makeup or do a lot of that, but I went around and I just tried to please, but at the same time I was afraid, so I stayed back. I was bullied a lot, and yet I was the teacher's pet because I would stay back in the class, and I would help out, just trying to be to please everybody, to bring some kind of calm or normalcy to a world where it wasn't.
And when did you tell?
When I was 16, my uncle
And
came
at this
over.
point, how long had it been going on?
7 years.
7
I've been
years.
going on 7 years, from age 9 to 16. And my uncle came over to our house one day, and we were in the kitchen, myself and my brother and another girlfriend, and we were playing a card game. I went to open the door, and it was him, and I didn't like being alone with him, so I went back in the kitchen, and then he started this crazy laughing and squealing, and then he put his foot through our front door, so I hear this glass break. My mom and dad came up at that very moment, so I didn't have to deal with it, and I just went back. But we found out that he had done angel dust and marijuana. Prior to that, though, I thought that the confusion and him going crazy was a culmination of all the guilt of all those 7 years, him not telling anybody, me definitely not telling anybody. So I thought that the only way that the doctors were going to know how to cure him is if I told. So I wrote my mom a letter.
How did your mom respond?
My memory is my mom giving my mom the letter. My bedrooms were right across from my mom. I remember her reading it and then slumping over, and then she got up and she shut her bedroom door. But when she locked the door, when I heard that lock engage, I thought everything my uncle said was coming true. I thought that the hate was starting and I had to run away. It seemed like an hour or so before my mom finally came out of the room. I followed her into the kitchen and I said, Mama, say something. Tell me you hate me, tell me you love me, tell me you want me out of your house. Just say something. She turned around, she had a face full of tears, and she said, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. Yet at age 16 till about 20, we never talked about it. But I was safe. My uncle was in a mental hospital getting the care that he needed, but I didn't have to deal with the memories, and I was safe.
How did you feel not talking about it for all those years? Did you feel like there was an elephant in the room, or?
Absolutely. I felt still confused. The emotional, the sexual sensations that were coming up in my body, that I wanted to satisfy but knew that they were wrong, not having anybody to talk to about it. Again, feeling ugly, feeling ashamed and embarrassed and guilty over something that I didn't even do. So I felt confused.
Did you have knowledge of any other victims in your family?
No, not until later. Not until later I found out that that same cousin that was in the backyard, he was also abusing. But that was years later.
So it's so often a perpetrator will abuse more than one victim and multiple victims.
Yes.
So if you had something to share with a survivor today, a fellow survivor, that you feel like would really touch their heart or benefit them, or just from your own personal journey of healing, what would that be?
That there is hope and that there is healing. And the pain of understanding and healing is far less than the pain of denial and despair.
What a good word.
You are an individual, I would share with them. You are someone that's special. No one else has your fingerprints, your DNA, and there is a purpose, even in all the madness. And you can get help and you can get healing, and there is a purpose for all of this madness.
That is a good word, Linda. Well, and I know you're doing great things now. Can you have a book out, right? Can you tell us a little bit about the book?
I do have a book. My book is about resting. My book is about resting.
Oh, I need that message. I need to get it immediately.
There's so many times, especially coming out of abuse, you want to do, you get the healing, life is going wonderful, and you are on purpose, but then you're just overdoing it a lot of times, and you forget to put on the brakes. With that book, I also offer my CD, Be Encouraged, to let people know that there is courage, there is hope, and there is healing. And the story of the Wizard of Oz, Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, I used to be afraid of that, totally afraid of that. But there came a point where I knew that I could click my heels and that I was home. And it's just me sharing my experiences, me sharing hope and encouragement to the women, teen girls, and families that I meet, that I am living my purpose. I am turning those scars into stars. I have the power. I recognize that, and I'm walking in it through the grace of God.
That's awesome. Tell us a little bit about the work that you do in the area of child sexual abuse.
I am the founder and director of Elegant Doves International Incorporated. I am humbled to be in that position. We do workshops, retreats, and mentoring for women, teen girls, and their families, helping them move from their pain to their purpose. We offer sexual abuse prevention training, and again, just tools and strategies to help them move and recognize who they are and how to use that pain and help the next generation, or even it's starting with their families.
Well, as a fellow survivor and a sister,
Yes.
I am so grateful to the work that you're doing. I'm so grateful for what you mean in my life. I'm so grateful that you've been on our show today. And I just say continue to inspire, continue to speak out, because one voice gives power to another voice. And together we can break the silence.
And you're proof of it. You're living your dream, and you're such an encouragement, and I just thank you so much for what you're doing.
Well, one voice at a time, right? Stay with us. We'll be right back on Angela's Voice.
This victim feels no more pain. A victim of child sexual abuse feels pain for the rest of their life. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused by their 18th birthday. Only 1 in 10 will ever tell. Pledge to break the silence of child sexual abuse. Go to voicetoday.org and join the Voice movement today. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Ready? Yeah.
I was 9 when my stepfather began sexually abusing me. I was alone in darkness and lived in fear and shame. I had no voice. On a path of self-destruction and tired of running from the pain, I finally broke my silence. Speaking out gave me the freedom to heal. I found victory and healing with my voice. Break your silence. Victory begins with your voice.
Join the Voice movement today.
I told Mommy I got hurt at Uncle George's house. She told me to put a bandage over it.
1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused by their 18th birthday. Pledge to break the silence of child sexual abuse. Go to voicetoday.org and join the voice movement today.
Welcome back to Angela's Voice, and we have more compelling stories for you. Our next guest sings like an angel, and you'll get to enjoy some of her songs later in the show. But would you please give us a warm welcome for Heather Petero? Well, welcome to the show, Heather.
It's a pleasure to be here.
You are so amazingly talented.
Oh, thank you.
Tell us a little bit about the little girl, Heather.
Well, the little girl, Heather, was fun and loved to play dress up with her sister. And my mother was a school teacher, so we always took turns playing who was the teacher and who was the class.
Wow.
And piano playing. We attended church regularly. We traveled a lot.
So music's been a big part of your life since the beginning.
Absolutely. My mother was a classically trained singer, so I don't know if we had a choice.
Oh, so tell me when the abuse entered your life.
I was very young. I would say maybe about 7 or 8 years old, and my sister was about 5 or 6. And the family members that abused us did it at the same time with us. So
it was more than one abuser
yes.
at the same time?
Yes.
With another child in the room?
You're right.
And Heather, why didn't you tell anybody?
Well, they said not to tell anyone, and because it was a family member that I really respected and I really wanted to be accepted by, you know, it was very important to me that I was accepted by them. I just kept my silence. And
How long? How long did it go on?
Many, many years. And the abuse went on for several years every time we would visit that side of the family. And my mother never knew. And it was actually in a house where there were adults present. And I didn't never feel betrayed by that. But years later, when my healing started happening, I was like, why didn't I say anything? I wasn't sure why I didn't say anything. And as I got free from that and was able to move past that, I waited until I was like 31 or 32 years old to even tell my mother. And no one ever knew. My sister didn't even remember. So I had to tell her because she was so young, she didn't even remember it happening. So.
How did your mother respond when you told her?
Oh my goodness, she was so angry. She was very angry, and I think she felt more betrayed than I did in many ways. But she asked me, she says, why didn't you tell me sooner? And I really didn't have an answer for that. You know, I really didn't know why. It was probably shame, guilt, unsurety of what would happen if I finally came clean, you know. And but I asked her not to create a stir that I felt like that I had started receiving healing and that I was finding the redemption past that, and that it would just cause more chaos if she had mentioned it, you know, and I said, I need you to forgive them. I've forgiven them, and so help me by forgiving them.
I feel like so many children are silenced in that fear and that shame. Well, I know that so many children, in story after story, we've heard this. How has the abuse impacted you as a woman?
Oh my goodness. I struggled with growing up, especially as a teenager, you know, especially when you have those teenager rebellious hormones kind of going on. Yeah, I really struggled with acceptance, acceptance of myself, really acceptance of others, especially guys. And when I finally got a boyfriend, my father had also died when I was 10, so after the abuse, then I lost my dad, and then shortly after my mother remarried. So it was a lot going on at one time in a short period of time. And I was always looking for that male acceptance, that I was okay, that I was beautiful, that I was worthy. And it took a long time to move through that. Lots of bad choices, lots of bad relationships, and when I met the man that was to be my husband, he had a lot to do with me finally realizing that I was loved and cherished and accepted, and it's okay. I just really don't know where I'd have been without him, because he was the man that finally helped me to see that I was okay to just be me. And that was just okay.
I've been blessed too. God gave me one of those same men. So if you had something to share to another sister, another survivor out there, what would you want to tell her?
Well, just like the other guests have said on the show today, I think that's the bottom line, is that there's hope, that you are never without hope. And I think that's the thing that we have to hold on to, that there are people in our lives who are willing to listen. There are people in our lives who want us to be okay and to remind us that it's okay to not be okay. But through that time when we're not okay, they're going to hold our hand and walk with us. And I think that's the thing that I have been blessed with, is that I've been sent people all through my life to tell me that I'm loved and cherished and that I am worth it. So.
You are, and you are loved and cherished, and I am one of your greatest fans. So I'm so excited that you're going to be performing the song Grace from Chaos in a little while, and that song has blessed me so much. So thank you for being with us. Stay with us as we continue on Angela's Voice. Are you a victim of child sexual abuse? Was your abuser ever prosecuted? Have you ever told anyone? Now is your time to speak. Child sexual abuse is cruel and painful, stealing a childhood. The impact devastating. I'm Angela Williams, and I know I was abused for 14 years. My abuser, like many, never prosecuted. I and a small army of advocates and survivors fought to pass House Bill 17, the Hidden Predator Act. The law has now changed in Georgia to extend the civil statute of limitations, finally giving victims the right to pursue civil justice. No matter how long ago your abuse happened, you can pursue civil action. The retroactive window is now open, but will close in 2017. Protect children from the person who abused you. Today, the courtroom doors are open. Act now to save the next victim. Email justice@voicetoday.org and get your voice today.
I told Mommy I got hurt at Uncle George's house. She told me to put a bandage over it.
1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused by their 18th birthday. Pledge to break the silence of child sexual abuse. Go to voicetoday.org and join the Voice movement today.
I was 9 when my stepfather began sexually abusing me. I was alone in darkness and lived in fear and shame. I had no voice. On a path of self-destruction and tired of running from the pain, I finally broke my silence. Speaking out gave me the freedom to heal. I found victory and healing with my voice. Break your silence. Victory begins with your voice.
Join the Voice movement today.
Prepare to have your socks blown off by our next guest, who will be performing from her latest CD, Voices United, which she has produced in combination with other artists to help survivors of child sexual abuse. I introduce to you Cynthia Giles.
20 years old, and I almost wept because I thought to myself, life may be short, but could it be shorter? Suicidal I was, a woman who was suicidal because she was overwhelmed by every bit of her story. Sexual abuse took a part of me. I didn't know if I could take the pain anymore, but a door opened because a woman spoke a phrase that changed my life. As she said, Cynthia, you need to be a voice to the voiceless and speak up for those who can't speak for themselves. And I listened to her. And today I can say I am free. I'm a voice today, and I am free. Voice up. Children of all ages go to school every day with bandages over their mouths. Hearts are hurting and homes are shaking because sexual abuse is stealing the innocence of this nation. Sexual abuse is like a winding clock that won't stop ticking. The cycle won't stop spinning. In the cycle of childhood sexual abuse survivors need warriors, soldiers like you and I, who will stand in the gap and rise up to fight for hope. Hope, which is a joyful expectation of what's unseen. For every home or city where sexual abuse took place, for every doorbell that rang, for every doorbell connected to those prisons of pain, open your ears and hear the Liberty Bell ring. Speak on behalf of freedom and listen to the roar vibrating from my lungs. Voice up. Survivors, we can't always change or adjust what happens to us because life is like a deck of cards. You make the best out of the hand you've been dealt with, and I choose redemption. How are you going to play with the cards of life? Will you let depression rob you of your purpose? Reverse that pain into power. This is our hour. Afflicted cities tossed with tempest and not comforted. Turn victim into victorious. Take the broken pieces of your life and rebuild this tossed around city. This city of tossed around children who cry out for a mother or father who would believe them when they disclose the abuse. My eyes almost swell to tears as I think of people who refuse to believe the story of survivors. Believe them. Their voices need your belief. Ending sexual abuse could change this world, but the truth is, the voice movement can't happen without your voice. Tell your story. Sexual abuse should have destroyed me. It should have destroyed us. But instead, we will use our stories to inspire others to be a voice to the voiceless. We'll put our fears behind us and unlock the power inside of us. Voice up. Reverse that pain into power. I am a voice today saying reclaim your vocal cords. You don't have to be silent anymore because a generation that's waiting to be born is waiting on your courage. If life throws stones at you, build something with them. Your struggles might be a stepping stone to a victorious cry. Every rock that's ever been thrown at you will become your sapphire because it's the darkest parts of our story that hold the most light. It's the night that needs the stars, the thorn that needs the roses, the rock that needs the rock climber. Because if you're still standing, you have a purpose. And if you're still breathing, this is your awakening. Voice up for freedom. I have a joyful expectation that the best is yet to come. I have a vision of children with a voice for freedom.
I was 9 when my stepfather began sexually abusing me. I was alone in darkness and lived in fear and shame. I had no voice. On a path of self-destruction and tired of running from the pain, I finally broke my silence. Speaking out gave me the freedom to heal. I found victory and healing with my voice. Break your silence. Victory begins with your voice.
Join the Voice movement today.
I have to keep it secret.
Children are told by their abusers not to tell.
Always tell if someone tries to touch you.
If you can't tell your parents, tell someone else.
And keep telling and telling and telling until someone listens.
I have the right to be protected. I have the right to be free. I have the right to be free.
Are you keeping a secret?
If you're being sexually abused, you're not alone.
It's not your fault.
There is someone who can help.
This victim feels no more pain. A victim of child sexual abuse feels pain for the rest of their life. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused by their 18th birthday. Only 1 in 10 will ever tell. Pledge to break the silence of child sexual abuse. Go to voicetoday.org and join the Voice movement today.
I told Mommy I got hurt at Uncle George's house. She told me to put a bandage over it.
1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused by their 18th birthday. Pledge to break the silence of child sexual abuse. Go to voicetoday.org and join the Voice movement today.
I hope you enjoyed that spoken word by Cynthia Giles as much as I did. She's amazingly talented, and what an inspiration for survivors. Our next guest is going to touch on a very tough topic. It is pornography, which is so pervasive and so accessible in our homes and in our communities. So would you please give a warm welcome to John Winstanley. So John, I am so excited to hear about the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And we're going to play a short video for our viewers to be able to see. So John, what does the word pornography mean to you?
Pornography means, well, the word itself means documented prostitution. And it's that. A lot of the guys think there's no big deal, but it is. It's a vile miscommunication, a mistelling of this beautiful thing between a man and a woman, and it is so destructive.
So tell us the first time that porn was exposed to you.
My generation, it's a very typical story. I was invited over to a friend's house when I was 15 or 16. One of my friends in the neighborhood, parents were out of town. It was an all-guy, kind of a hanging out, eating chips and stuff like that. And I walked to his house, and I walked in the room, and on the TV was a pornographic video. And all the guys were trying to make like they were eating their chips, but they were all fixated on that video. And to this day, and I hear this a lot from guys, we always remember that first exposure. It's melted into my brain. I remember the scenes, and it planted a seed.
And so how do you think that impacted your teens and young adulthood?
Well, over the years, I was a freshman, sophomore, kind of in that area. Again, I had, over the exposure in my high school years, it was, Playboy magazines or a video at friends' houses and all that. And then I went to college, and I truly do believe, because I was a shy person, I would never buy that stuff myself. But something happened while I was at college. I would never have gone back to pornography. Like many others, I would have just let it go. But something happened while I was in college. It was this thing called the internet.
I've heard of that.
Yes, and the guys in my dorm room, they had these new things called laser printers.
Okay.
And they were printing these pictures that I saw in Playboy, but on the internet, they're free. And you don't have to go to the dark side of the town and buy this magazine and feel all. You could do it from your dorm room. And you know what? There were thousands of them on the internet.
And tell us how this has impacted your relationship with women.
Well, at the time, that was the beginning of, like I said, I would never have in the high school years, but that internet came in, and it changed my life in that all of a sudden, something that I would have never gone back to, all of a sudden became an addiction. I couldn't live with it. It was in my mind. Like I said, those images, it's known for men, when you see an intimate images like that, the same chemicals are released that are released during, from street drugs, crack cocaine and stuff like that. The dopamine burns those images into your brain. So when you leave pornography and walk away, you're still seeing those images. So it separated me. I carried the same kind of a shame that you've been talking about on your show today. It separated me from society.
So how often would you watch pornography, and how long would you view it?
There were, at the height of it, when it got really bad, I would say it was about 2 to 3 times a day. There were some sessions called binge sessions where you just had hours because, you know, it's no longer just a magazine that you gets old. There's thousands. There's over 40,000 websites out there that have pornography, and 90% of it is free. So you could look forever. Yeah, so for hours it could go on.
And so this is when you married. How did your wife deal with this?
Well, something happened. We got married in the late 90s, and I met this guy named Jesus in 2000. And I had a heart change.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, I was an atheist for 30 years of my life. So the pornography was my drug of choice. You know, other people had drink and drugs. Pornography was what I was using to cope with my anger and my feeling of just, something's missing in life. And my wife was praying for me. You know, they tell you in Sunday school, stay away from those atheists. You know, you need to find a man that believes in this God guy. But she didn't. She took a challenge, and I'm thankful for that, because it was her forgiveness and her grace. Because I tell guys all the time, I never want to see that look that I saw in her eyes when she found out about my pornography use. It's for guys, we compartmentalize. We say it's just pictures, or it's just a video that means nothing to me, honey, kind of a thing. But I saw that look in her eyes. It's like I was having a relationship with a real person, and it took years and work, but we worked through it. And yeah, that's a part of my story.
So if some of our viewers today are struggling with pornography, with a porn addiction, what would you tell them?
I would say you're not alone. Every day, 2.4 billion people use pornography. You're not alone, but you need help. It is a big deal. What worked for me was I tried to self-help myself, but I eventually reached out to somebody. Tell somebody that you're doing life with, maybe your wife, your girlfriend, a friend. Tell somebody and have that somebody hold you accountable.
So I understand that this has become your passion in life. So can you tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing to try to help the next generation from pornography? Yes,
yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm a civil engineer by training. You wouldn't know that, but I'm a civil engineer.
Really smart guy.
Yeah, I try to be. But this is part of my story, a story I buried deep inside. And I had two children. Laura passed away when she was 7. And no, but it was a proud moment, because that little girl changed so many people's lives in her 7 short years. So Laura taught me that it's not about how long you're on this earth, but what you do with the time that's given to you. And that you can take a handicap and you can help so many people. My handicap is pornography addiction. So that thing that I buried deep inside, I could no longer keep my voice silent. I had to tell people, I had to help people. I'm angry that the largest consumers of pornography today are children 12 to 17. I'm angry that my son was shown pornography on a school bus. I'm angry that the average age of exposure is between 9 and 11, and it's dropping down to 6, according to USA Today.
Devastating.
It is. So I started an organization called Explicit Content, whose mission is to help churches, schools, and businesses get this issue out of the darkness, and let's talk about it, much like you're doing with this show, which I thank you so much for, by the way.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited to have you. I'm excited about the work that you're doing, because pornography is the leading cause of sexual violence against women and children.
Yes.
So it's so intertwined. So if we could possibly stop the pornography, then we could have an impact on child sexual abuse.
Yes.
So will you be able to speak to schools and high schools, and
yes.
you go? How far do you go? Do you all over the country?
Yes. This is my passion. This is what I've done. Laura taught me. This is what I've done. My wife saw that look in my eye, and she said, "Honey, if you want to do this, I'm going to go back to work. So my wife supports our family. I'm a stay-at-home father for my son Kyle, and this is what I do. So people may be asking, why did I say businesses earlier? The time when most people are watching pornography is during the workday. Mr. Google told me that. So I'm reaching out to businesses saying, look, you don't know how much time and effort you're losing at work based on your employees. So, and then churches is such a difficult topic to bring up at church. But as a former atheist and an addict, I'm just vulnerable on stage, and it allows others to be vulnerable as well.
That's awesome. Well, you're an amazing man. I am just so grateful and to be able to work with you and to be in the trenches with you and to be battling this issue on the front lines. And I thank you that that you're not ashamed, that you're not ashamed to sit here and say, you know, and once an addict, always an addict. So I'm sure that you have to continue to stay in recovery, continue to have accountability partners, and continue to be able to walk it out.
Yes, like I tell folks that I took that thorn that was a wound in my side and I've removed it and turned it into a sword. And as guys, we like swords. So it's a good thing. But yeah, the pornography was my handicap.
Well, I'm so grateful for you being with us today.
Thank you.
Survivors have a very chaotic life, and I just am so excited for this next song that you're going to enjoy by Heather Pettereau, and it's called Grace from Chaos.
Walked with me. I could have gone crazy, but you carried me. My mind is tired, my heart is weakening. I've got no strength, but your strength through me. It's the dawn of a new day, and freedom shines on me. No matter, no day, no pain that comes my way can't keep your grace from me. You give me grace, grace from chaos. Yeah. My eyes on clear, so thank you for your sight. Could have gone wrong, but you made it right. Awake my soul in this suffering. Though for a night joy comes in the morning. It's the dawn of a new day, and freedom shines on me. No matter, no day, no pain that comes my way can't keep your grace from me. You give me grace, grace.
sorry. Okay. Ready? Yeah.
I told Mommy I got hurt at Uncle George's house. She told me to put a bandage over it.
1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused by their 18th birthday. Pledge to break the silence of child sexual abuse. Go to voicetoday.org and join the Voice movement today.
Are you a victim of child sexual abuse? Was your abuser ever prosecuted? Have you ever told anyone? Now is your time to speak. Child sexual abuse is cruel and painful, stealing a childhood. The impact devastating. I'm Angela Williams, and I know I was abused for 14 years. My abuser, like many, never prosecuted. I and a small army of advocates and survivors fought to pass House Bill 17, the Hidden Predator Act. The law has now changed in Georgia to extend the civil statute of limitations, finally giving victims the right to pursue civil justice. No matter how long ago your abuse happened, you can pursue civil action. The retroactive window is now open, but will close in 2017. Protect children from the person who abused you. Today, the courtroom doors are open. Act now to save the next victim. Email justice@voicetoday.org and get your voice today.
We've heard from some amazing guests today. My life, too, has been impacted by child sexual abuse. From age 3 to 17, for 14 years, I remained silent, and my story is not uncommon. We've heard today that the safe haven of home and family has been invaded by child sexual abuse, too. Today, I speak as a declaration of freedom. I have the power now to protect the next generation of children. I have the power now to help a survivor get their voice. And one voice at a time, it is our passion that the Voice movement would sweep across this land. If you are a survivor, we are praying for you. We're praying for courage, and we're praying for boldness and hope and healing. For our guests, thank you for opening up to most intimate parts of your life. We're so grateful. If you would like to contact any of our guests, please visit angelasvoice.tv, and we'll be happy to get back with you. This is Angela Williams. You've been listening to Angela's Voice, and together we are breaking the silence.